Rainworld is a game developed by Video Cult and published by Adult Swim Games. While lesser known than major titles in the genre, like Hollow Knight or Ori and the Blind Forest, I feel that it's very worthwhile to analyze why this game is the way that it is, as well as what we can take away from its development. In the video, I will use Clara Fernandez's analysis tools to do a deeper dive into this game. Rainworld was mainly developed by the artist and programmer George Jacobson, who started development in their free time. Their goal was to create a game that can encapsulate the feeling of the animal fighting for survival in an environment not found in nature. Jor found inspiration in the environment around them during their time in Korea. This is seen heavily in the game's environments, which are filled with what seems to be man-made structures in a world of no people. These environments have been taken over by the surrounding ecosystem. Pipes and crevices turning into hiding spots from predators, and open areas become hunting grounds. Inspiration from the real world is also seen through graffiti and factory-like rooms. In an interview with Vice, Jacobson mentioned that the goal was to feel like, quote, the rat in Manhattan, where a rat living in a train station has no idea why its surroundings are the way that it is, but still knows that the train is dangerous and that the food it finds is delicious. Despite being in what should be an unfamiliar world, the rat survives and adapts to its surroundings. Rainworld is a sort of Metroidvania, full of the familiar backtracking and platforming that comes with the genre, but with twists of its own to better serve the intended feeling that the game is going for, and to separate itself from the genre. Unlike other Metroidvanias, the game incorporates survival mechanics, such as hunger and a time limit on each day. In order to save, the player must eat a certain amount of food and get into shelters to progress to the next cycle, which is this game's version of a day. Each cycle also has a random amount of time set until the rainfall happens, which will flood the area and kill the player if left in the rain for too long. This creates interesting choices for the player, where they must spend their given time wisely to either explore further and possibly run out of time, or play it safe and to get enough food to survive for another cycle. Rainworld also separates itself with how it treats survival and death. The game has a reward system called the karma system. When the player survives, they are rewarded by going up a karma level. However, when they die, they go down a karma level. Karma is what determines if the player is able to proceed to the next zone through the gates found between zones. This acts as a test for the player, where their ability to survive is somewhat graded. If the player can prove that they adapted to the new area and can survive long enough to have a high enough karma level, they can move on to the more difficult zone. It's almost impossible to talk about Rainworld without talking about how it combines gameplay and physics through art. In a GDC talk, the creators of Rainworld speak about how they utilize physics and a set of behaviors to generate pixel art, rather than utilizing pre-made animations. This way they can more naturally show the player what the creature is thinking and how it plans to act. Animals and plants are oriented by goals such as find food, and it's up to them on how to achieve this. Through its use of physics, creatures can adapt to its surroundings and to bend and fall to get its target. An amazing use of this are the scavengers, who flop about, climbing poles, and use their arms to run around. Similar to the player, they can pick up and use items they find on the ground. They can express fear through running away, or if they have a spear, they'll lift it in a threatening way. They will also observe the player and try to decipher the player's movements, and decide what to do next. A big amount of the formal aspects of the game are set to further the player's immersion. Rainworld greatly utilizes Mata Haggis Burge's 4 categories of immersion to suck players in and further the believability of its environments and ecosystems. Through systems immersion, Rainworld provides an elaborate ecosystem driven by goals and its beautiful environment to sell its spaces. The game avoids using obtrusive UI by making the inventory and the means of performing actions physical aspects of the world. The player is limited by what they can hold in their left and right hand, while also being able to store a single small inedible object in the player's stomach. Trades with scavengers are performed not by using a box with buttons, but by tossing a pearl in front of them. The only real UI element during gameplay is the map and a small hunger meter, which does not pause the game and slowly appears in front of the player. The places that the slug cat has recently gone through are clearly visible, while areas not recently taken slowly disappear. This is to represent the slug cat's memory, where they slowly forget parts of the map. Spatial immersion is achieved through its highly detailed environments. While the game is grid-based, it avoids this feeling through its unique pixel art on the screen. There is no visible tileset or repeating pattern, so each screen is highly detailed and memorable. Environments use a limited color palette to look more grim and to contrast well with the colorful enemies. All the spaces also interact with the light and shade differently throughout the cycle to give a player a better sense of time. While little dialogue happens through the game, empathic immersion can be seen through the AI's actions. Enemies or creatures can express fear, anger, or desperation that is all too familiar to the player as they traverse this brutal ecosystem. Rainworld expresses narrative immersion through sort of dream sequences between cycles, as well as an overseer which provides clues to the player on what is exactly happening without giving away too much. While the player hibernates, periodically a dream sequence happens to convey a greater story to the player and to further explain what they're seeing. The overseer directs the player by giving them clues to places of interest, such as hibernation chambers, food, and where the player might want to explore next. Rainworld is a game about a brutal ecosystem, where the player must overcome enemies and adapt to the environment to survive. The game utilizes context from the real world to influence its art and gameplay direction. It separates itself from others in the Metroidvania genre by adding mechanics found in other genres. By utilizing procedural animations in combination with the behavior mechanics, creatures become more lifelike. Lastly, Rainworld hunkers down on the 4 types of immersion by going the extra mile when it comes down to art and UI to make the world more believable. Through its many systems and artistic decisions, it has perfectly captivated Jacobson's vision of the rat in Manhattan.